Scott Brown. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. They gave you the clap. Okay, good. All right. Well, thank you, guys. You know, it's kind of interesting to see there's a lot of stress on finding evap leaks and we're looking for really small stuff. Well, I've got a story to share. Recently, I went and I took like a first private pilot lesson, and part of the lesson is to walk around the aircraft, do an inspection. Part of the inspection is to check the fuel. So you've got 3 points that you check fuel, you've got a little device to pull a sample, and part of that process, the pilot instructor tells me, he says, wind at your back, you take it and you just empty the container. So all that fuel, I mean, that's a massive amount of hydrocarbons just going right into the air. And he goes, oh yeah, that's all standard practice. We do that all the time. So I go, well, we got guys in the field looking for a 20,000th orifice leak, and you guys are just slinging your fuel. And he said, oh, it's not his problem. So kind of interesting. So, I really appreciate being invited here, and I'm really proud to come here and share some information. What I'm presenting, of course, is not super technical. As G indicated, I was helping put together some of these manuals, and you guys are going to get some in-depth data from our following instructors. So this should be pretty easy on the brain power, and hopefully we'll get you lubed up for the next session. So, how many here are using computers in your shop? Everybody, I hope. Okay. In the early days, we used to do presentations and we were trying to bribe people to actually get a computer and start using them. So we know that we've got some guys that are in here that are early adopters. I've known some people here for over 25 years through using computers online. We realize that there's a lot of potential. And it provides us access to a lot of things, programs, but we need to know some things. There's some basic skills that we need to have in order to really make an efficient operation with the computer. I visit a lot of shops, and when I walk into shops, I get them on the computer and we start talking about some things, and I see a lot of issues, and some of those things I'm going to cover here that will hopefully help you guys get a little more organized and understand some of the things. The file handling, uploading, sharing, and the computers are there to make life easier, not harder. So we've got a few discussion items. One, where are my files? I see guys, I visit their shop and I go into their computer and we're trying to look for a file, and I mean, they've got one folder and it's got every file they've ever saved for the last 10 years, and there's no organization. So I'm going to show you how to kind of structure that or develop your own system so that you can easily find your stuff later, and it also makes it portable. We're going to talk about screen capturing. How many guys here practice capturing a screen and documenting what they're doing? We've got a few, several. I hope a lot of you are, because that's really, you're documenting before and after, and that's where you're adding some value to your process, your diagnostic process. You're able to show your customer, hey, this is what it was, this is where it's at. We're going to talk about some office tools, browsers, email, and then we're going to talk about some searching tools on iATN. So where are my files? Typically the computer's got a folder, subfolder scheme, and usually what you want to do is you need to understand you've got a program name, and usually there's a data subfolder. And then what I encourage people to do is create another subfolder for your customer. And then name the files, okay? Name them, in a mode that helps you understand what you're working on. So in this case here, you've got like the Pico, this is the normal structure. You've got a data folder, and then here you would create Jones 04 Hyundai Santa Fe. So you guys would know that that's the Hyundai. And then when you capture the data, or when you're saving the file, you can save it in the folder and call it, cylinder 1 compression bad. Cylinder 3 compression good. Cylinder 1 compression fixed. So if you name it that way, it makes it real easy to come back and know which one you want to open. Then if you want to take this data, because sometimes you have multiple computers, right? So you've got it on one computer where you've captured all the data, maybe want to make a backup copy. you can just copy that top folder, the Jones, and you've got all the data, and you just stick it in your data folder, and you can get to it right away. So when you're in Windows and you're browsing through either the File Explorer or when your file open from the program, you've got a couple of different views, but just so you understand, your root directory is typically the computer drive. You've got program files, it's usually x86, and then this is where you're going to find the programs. But in some cases, the programs aren't always in that program file subdirectory, so you need to be conscious of where you're actually at, because it'll make life easier when you go back to look for stuff. So in this case, you've got the subdirectory there, Pico Technology, you've got the data, and then you've got the actual folder that we created to store that additional information. When you browse back, you can basically you've got a number of ways to get back and forth. You can click through here, you can use this panel. So this here is an example of using an application. In the top spot here, this is a file open from within the file or within the program. And so you're going to see a little bit different setup. You can browse through your folders here. You got to pull this down and go up. But I'm in this folder, and I've got all of my files here. And you need to pay attention to this top bar here. This is how you can sort the data, so you can quickly find stuff. So as you click on date modified, you can sort it the newest first, or you can go the oldest first. Sometimes you don't see this, either there might be a date modified or there might be a date stored. So you need to be conscious of that, because sometimes if you move the file, it says date sorted or date stored, it'll be today's date or the date that you move it. So you need to make sure that you've got the date modified in that. If you don't see it, you just right click up here and it'll give you a little menu on pulling those in. Now, when you're browsing the computer looking for those files, you're not inside the program, you're browsing the computer, you needed to drill into the local disk, and on this is an ATS program. Their actual program is right off of the root directory. It's not in that program files directory structure. So, I've got guys that they can't find stuff, and they need to be conscious of this. Same thing applies. You've got these sorting options here where you can click through and sort. And then you've got menu options here to create a new folder. There's your new folder link. That's a new folder link right there. So you just create a new folder, store the data in there, and move on. Any questions on that? I mean, that's kind of some basic stuff there, but I find that basic element, sometimes guys don't understand it. So, screen capture. We had a few guys that were saying that they use screen capture. It's really important, I think, to have that not only for documenting your data that you're collecting, but sometimes you run into an error on your computer, right? Sometimes you got an error with all kinds of data, and you don't want to sit there and have to write all that stuff down. You want to have some type of application or something where you can hit a couple of keys and it just captures that image, then you just store it right on your computer. So the screen capture, just so everybody understands, you're basically taking a picture of what's on your monitor currently. There are a few programs here that I'm aware of that I use. I use this Jing, and we're going to do a demo on that. There's another program called Snagit. AES has this AnnoWave program that allows you to do some additional animation or annotation. And then Windows, all the Windows computers have print screen function on the keyboard. You just hit print screen, and boom, it captures an image, puts it right up on the clipboard. Then you can go into another program and install that. So why capture? Documenting anomalies, capturing the scan data, scope data, etc. So this is Jing. Jing you can get for free. It's a pretty clean application. It's real low overhead, and I have it running on all my machines because I use it all the time. We run into problems where something weird shows up on the computer. We need to just quickly capture it, get it to our development teams. They can look at it and see exactly what I was seeing. Problem solved. So there's the URL. You can download it for free. So we're going to do a little demo on that. I think this screen here, this shows that I'm midway into a screen capture. And the power here is that when you capture it, you have a couple of quick tools here where you can go ahead and start to annotate and add some text. You can add some arrows, and then you can rename the file right there and save it. So I'm going to demonstrate how that works. So I'm running Windows here, and say I've got this program up and running, and say I'm going to open up a file, and see I'm in my data folder here, and I go ahead and say open up this one here, and say that I've configured the screen to look at something that I really want to see. So let's just zoom in here, take a look. So now I've got my screen, what I want to show. Got an idea what's going on here. There's, of course, the guys that are power users, there's probably more data that you want to go ahead and add in here. But when you have Jing running in your computer, you're going to see this little sun device up here at the top. You guys see that? Okay. So this gives you a little tool where you can grab this little crosshair device. But when you first install it and you have it running up here, you need to visit this gear option here. These gears, or this is where you can configure this device or this software, and you click on Preferences. And right up here where it says Capture Hotkey, this is where you can create a series of keys that you can instantly access at any time. So I'm just going to pick my desired keys. I'm going to hold down the Control key, Shift key, and the number 3. And it might be kind of hard to see, but it says Control Shift plus 3. And then I go ahead and close that. So now I'm doing my normal operation. I'm on the computer. I hit Control Shift 3. And what happens is that this crosshairs comes up here. And I can then draw a box around whatever I want. If I click, like up at the very top here, it's going to grab the entire screen. If I didn't want the entire screen, I can just grab this area here, click and drag, okay? But of course, you would typically want to get all the other data because there's valuable data there. So as soon as you click and drag, now you've got this extra menu right here where you can capture an image. You've got a capture video option. Now, what happened to Jing in the last year is that they stopped supporting regular, usable, portable video. They went back to using flash only. So I don't recommend using this for video, but it is an option for you to actually create an animation. So you could basically start this thing recording, move your cursors, and maybe even talking to the computer and create a small, short little video that explains something. Because sometimes a static image is okay, but you can do a lot more with describing that video or describing it within a video. So at this point, you can just click here. I'm going to capture an image. Now it pulls it up, and it gives me a couple of options. So now I can basically grab an arrow. And a couple of best practices here is that you can change your color scheme. And what I would recommend is that if you're capturing something that's bad, use red. All right? When you get the fixed item or the follow-up, the good one, use the green color scheme because it will come in handy. When you're browsing your folder and you just have the thumbnails showing up in your screen, you've got a whole bunch of them, you can quickly see which ones are red and which ones are green. So that's another visual aid that will help you grabbing your information. So I've got red there, and I'm on the arrow, so you can quickly start to point down. So I want to add a note. So I just add a note there, and it's kind of hard to see. The screen resolution is way up there. You can draw a box around something if you want to highlight something, and so on. And then as soon as you then click save, it's going to say, hey, where do you want to stick that thing? Well, I was working on that. I was working inside that program, that ATS program. So I'm going to want to go to the local disk, go find the ATS folder, click into that, go into the program, and then the data subfolder, okay? And then I believe it was this one here, right? The Tahoe that we were looking at. And then I can name the file here. It automatically names it with the date stamp. So you see the date 2014, 3/22, and then 8/39 is a timestamp. So you could at that point just highlight that and call it Tahoe cylinder 1 good or bad or whatever, okay? Then you click save. So now you know where that file's at, and it gives you a little confirmation button there, and you can go ahead and close that out. And say you loaded up another one, you can just quickly grab these screens very quickly as you're moving along here. So any questions on that, on how that works? How many guys are using this Jing application, by the way? Anybody? Nobody, okay. You guys see some use here? Some help, okay? Yes, sir?
Find that folder you just said. Where do you go to find it?
Okay, so you want to, the question was, if you wanted to find out where I just saved that, where do I go? Typically in Windows, I'm running, this is Windows 7, which probably most of you are running today. Most of the automotive applications aren't conducive to smooth operation in the Windows 8 world. But if you come down here to, you can't quite see it there, but there's one that looks just like a file folder down there. It's typically always in your dock. So now you come in here and you've got your computer. You've got some quick access points here. You've got your desktop, downloads folder, but I just recommend going to computer. That's going to drive you into the local disk. Remember, that's our root directory. And for this one, we want automotive test solutions. eScope Limited, data, Washington, and then here's an example of that thumbnail. You can see, I mean, I can see it on my screen, but you can see that it's red, and that would typically indicate that, oh, that's a bad one, and then I'm going to grab the green one as a good one, you know, to show it to the customer or what have you. But it makes it nice to be able to capture that data, because as I met Kurt here yesterday, and he was telling me how his process of capturing data and sharing it with people, and he was basically printing it out and then scanning it and then emailing it. So that you can see the process there. It takes a lot of time to do that. This makes it very, very quick. Any other questions on that? Did that answer your question? Okay. So if you, and again, if you were in the wrong folder, you could go back here to data, maybe go, you know, keep going back, go back to local disk. Then there's your program files directory, and you can come down, there's the Pico directory. And I probably don't have any, I don't know if I have any data in here. I don't use this for doing diagnosis. I just installed these apps just so I could show them off here. But that lets you drive around inside the computer. And again, you've got portability. If we go back to the computer, data, you could take this folder right here. I could right click and copy it and put it right on my thumb drive, and then take that to my other computer, dump it right inside of this same data folder, and I've got my data there. But you want to share that with one of your buddies or what have you. So it makes it nice. Okay, any other questions? You guys must not be awake yet. You guys are not testing me. So, like I said, this is going to be easy. Okay, Snagit is another program. It allows you to do video, okay? It is a pay-for program. It is actually built by the same company. It says TechSmith. That's the same company that builds Jing, the Jing application. We were using Jing for a while when it was doing the video stuff, and it was very quick. It created a nice, small, compressed file that was good quality and very, very powerful. So this is another way for you to, you know, collect some video stuff and share it. AnnoWave, that's George at AES Wave. He's authored that application. How many guys here have used that program? Got a couple guys that are using it? Okay. So it does the same thing. It's got some annotation features in it. Very useful to mark up your document so you can kind of see what it is. And keep in mind that when you put your own notes and everything on your screen, you're kind of customizing that. So if your document gets out there in the world and then all of a sudden you see it in a magazine somewhere and you didn't know about it, you now know that that's yours. So, and then like I said earlier, when you have in the Windows operating system, you have on your keyboard, you have a print screen button, okay? That's kind of a last-ditch effort, in my opinion. I have some old equipment operating in our shop that's running like Windows 98, and you can't upgrade it because it's running some specialized software, and I can't even run this Jing app. So basically what you have to do is you have to push the print screen button. What that does is it puts the whole screen up on the clipboard, which is your temporary memory area. Then you open up a program called Paint, which all Windows computers come with. You go into Paint, you go Edit, Paste. Boom, it brings that in, and then you can do some markups and then save it. I would demo that here, but I'm using a Mac, and the Mac does not have a print screen button. So now we're going to go on to Office applications. There are several Office applications. The reason I'm bringing this up, the techs in the shop are probably not using most of these, but I encourage you to maybe explore them a little bit and familiarize yourself with them, because they might be able to solve a problem for you someday. Or you may want to look at the future here where you're not going to be wrenching all the time. You're going to need to know some of these essential communication tools that will help you in the office and workflow. Keeping your career on track and keeping your options open. So you've got Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Most of the guys that are operating shop or shop owners here probably have used all these, but how many techs out here have used any of those Office applications? Got a few of them here? Okay. So they're very powerful. I use Word all the time. I use Excel all the time. PowerPoint is what we use for doing presentations. It's really nice. And then we're going to talk about Google Drive, Dropbox, and SkyDrive. How many people here know what Google Drive is and use it? Okay. Google Drive, I can't emphasize this enough. This is such a cool thing. You don't actually have to have the Office suite, purchased and installed on your machine. You can use, if you got a Google account, you can set up your Google Drive and you can import these documents and work on them. But the power there is that you can then share these documents and have people work on them simultaneously. So imagine that you had a project that you wanted to assign a few people to take care of this sheet. So you had a worksheet, a spreadsheet that said, had a bunch of parts on it, and you wanted to find out what these parts were. You may have some old inventory, and you want 3 people to work on it. Well, typically, in the old days, you would basically email each person that sheet, and then they'd email you their work back, and then you've got to connect everything, and that's just a big nightmare because you don't know, who overwrote what or whatever. So what you can do is you go to Google Drive, you start this new sheet, you put all your data in there, and then you share it with these 3 or 4 people or 5 people, and they can all work on it simultaneously. And while you're working on it, you'll see him typing over here. Very powerful. I mean, we do a lot of projects, and if I didn't have access to that, I would want to gouge my eyes out, because managing some of that stuff without this really saves a lot of time. So we'll talk about these applications. So Microsoft Word, it helps you to draft a letter. If you guys are writing some notes or writing a letter to a customer, it's a good idea to draft it up and paste it into Word, okay? Or you could use Word to draft it up. But it helps you because it can do some grammar checking for you. It can kind of check some scoring to find out where the level of your writing is. And then you can kind of monitor your writing skills and try to always improve them and make sure that you're concise and clear. The technology, the new customers that we're getting are all technology people, and so they're affluent with proper grammar, proper English, and it really reflects on you well if you're using good grammar and good communication skills. The customer, as soon as they start reading that, they know they're dealing with a professional. You know, you don't want to write a note to a customer with a bunch of shorthand or, you know, texting stuff. So Excel. So I explained that there might be a couple of solutions that it might offer. How many times have you know, I may be going back into the like OBD1 days, but how many of you may have logged a little bit of data and you're trying to make heads or tails and your scan tool didn't really have any graphing capabilities? You could just scroll from frame to frame to frame to capture that, to look at the data. Well, I've used it to basically build those bullet points and then graph that data. So in some cases you need to create a new view of your data to kind of, you know, make heads or tails of it. How many people have done that? Built a spreadsheet and logged some data? So we got a few people, okay. So you guys understand the power there, right? Because you're going to have a tool that, you know, one tool is really nice because it graphs and it gives you all that nice data, and then all of a sudden you've got another tool and it won't do anything but maybe log a little data and just give it to you in straight text, flat text or whatever. So being able to dump it or build it into a sheet to create a view, to plot it against other values, just very, very valuable. I also indicated project management. I can't stress that enough. If you don't understand how that Google Drive thing works, get your IT guy, talk to him, get him set up, get you set up. It's all free to use, and try it out a little bit. See if it works in your program. It might save you some time. PowerPoint. So again, that's for presentations. So say that you're going to do a class. So some of these guys that I've met over the years, they've attended class, they've gotten really good at what they do, and now they're out teaching classes. And so one of the essential items that they need to know how to operate is PowerPoint. So knowing how to put your documents together, how to organize them so that you can tell a story. It might also be important someday when you're operating your shop and you're going to develop a business plan and you're going to present it to your banker, and you want to say, hey, you know what, I want a loan. This is my game plan. This is what's going on. So having a really good, clean presentation to present to your banker is going to probably do you right. So a couple of other apps, again, Dropbox and Google Drive. Those basically are items that are in the cloud. They're on a remote computer, and you can basically access them at any time. How many people are using Google Drive or Dropbox? So we got several people here? Okay. So, and I imagine that you're using it and you continue to use it because you see power in it. Is that correct? Would that be accurate? Okay, all right. So for those of you that are not using it, yes, sir?
One of the things I like about Dropbox is you can configure it on your phone to save, anytime you take a picture of something.
Okay.
Once you're connected to your Wi-Fi, it'll automatically upload it to your Dropbox. And so whatever computer you have that on, it'll instantly be there.
Okay. Yeah, so Bob was basically talking about the power of being able to save something. Okay, I'm getting a feedback from that speaker there. Being able to capture something and have it simultaneously push it up into the cloud so it's available on other devices. That's a good point. I know there's a lot of power there, and I've got something here I'm going to show you guys here in a second that you may want to try out. So, and this is it right here. This application, this is something that I just put in here, and it might be slightly out of order in your handout. Like I said last night, I was putting a few of these together, and I saw some of them were in the wrong slot. So this application is something that we just discovered. We have some pretty smart people working in our office, and they're very progressive, and they're really into technology, and they saw a lot of really good stuff happening. How many people have heard of this application? It's called Slack. Nobody? I didn't expect anybody to raise their hand because it's brand new. So what Slack is, it's a communication tool that allows you to run it on your computer. You can run it on your smartphone. How many people here are using smartphones? Okay. How many people here are thinking about using smartphones but haven't really felt that there's a real good need for it in the automotive space? Got a few people. Okay. Hopefully I'm going to be able to change your mind here in just a second. So what this does, and I'm going to do a demo. I've got a short little video, and I'm going to try to do a live demo here and kind of explain how this cool app works. What it does is it allows you to set up a device or set up an application on your computer. You can get your whole team, your team being your shop, your group of guys or whatever. And as you're sharing stuff, you can add people to certain groups, or you can communicate with one-on-one, or you can create your own little temporary, your personal folder like Bob was indicating. You can instantly send data to yourself so that it shows up. So there's a short little video. Okay, I've got my Slack app up and running, and I'm currently in my personal shop notes folder, so I'm only sending messages to myself. But I want to take a picture of this fuse block showing a relay that I need. So I'm going to select the upload arrow next to the message indicator, choose to take a photo, and while holding the phone over the power distribution center, I'm going to go ahead and point out the relay I'm looking for and select photo. And it's going to ask me what size photo I want to choose. I'm going to choose the original, which is the highest res, about 2 megs. Here we can add a title. If we just tap in the title area, we can type one in with the keyboard, or we can optionally use our voice. 2013 Chevrolet Volt. And then we can type into the comment area if we want to add some more detail here. And again, we can use the microphone. This is the underhood power distribution center. The relay I'm looking for is a 1330 6942. And if I look at my message here, everything looks good. I'll go ahead and check send. And that's going to upload the file to the server, and it will then show up right on my desktop. So when I return to my
Slack app is on the right there.
all that data is there. Imagine for a moment that we also were sending this message simultaneously to the service advisor up front. You could easily set that channel up. So it's a pretty powerful tool. Okay, I've got my Slack app. Okay. So I want to demo this Slack. So I have a shortcut that's already set up, and you can actually set up multiple accounts. So you can actually have multiple teams, and I'm going to set up, we just set this up for my shop the other day, and the guys are just now getting familiar with it. We didn't get them all set up with their mobile devices, but I gave a demo to a couple of guys. And so basically what you can do is you can set up channels. So we've got like end of day status, front office, general, random, shop, okay? And then you've got direct messages where you can send messages back and forth to people simultaneously. Or you can set up private groups. So if I click on private groups, I can go ahead and create a new group. And I'm just going to call this shop personal. And you have to use lowercase here. Okay. You can type in a purpose. You can actually invite certain people to this private group if you want to, but I just want to put myself on it. And then create group. Okay. So now I have this personal group here, and I just pull up my phone right now. And I have the app that's already installed here. You're not going to be able to see my screen, but you're going to see what happens here in a second. So I'm in my Slack application. And I now have this shop personal room or channel that I just set up there. It's already here. So I'm inside of it. And now say I want to send a new message. So say I'm under the hood of a car, I'm checking out the car, and I'm making some notes for myself rather than writing them down. That was one of the big pain points for our techs. We make all of our techs document what they're doing and actually put it into the shop management program. How many guys here have to do that? Everybody, I hope? Okay. Because this is what you get paid for, documenting what you're doing, because that, that pencil makes money. In this case, we're going to make characters make money. So I'm under the hood, I'm inspecting some things. I can click that little button here, it says take photo. It also gives you an option to pull a photo that you've already taken in the past, so you don't have to take it in real time. So now I can come over here. I want to get the whole class. All right, so I click use photo. It's going to ask me what size. I'm going to just pick large. That's 1.4 megabytes. Type in the title. I'm going to use I don't like to type on a keyboard. I'm just going to use the voice to text here. TST class in New York, 2014. And then I can put in a bunch of text in the bottom. So just for this example, we'll see how it translates some regular technical stuff. This is a picture of the rear fuse panel. I need connector C2184, and I also need the solder connectors for that. I need 8 total. So I look at my message. Sometimes it screws up a little bit. If I'm happy, I just click send. So as soon as it gets pushed up, should see it come up here on the computer. Still uploading. It's coming. It's relying on our super fast internet connection here, but there it is, okay? So I hope some of you can see the power of that, because you could be out inspecting a few cars in the morning, okay, doing some preliminary inspection. I got this idea after we started using it in the office for just our normal stuff. I got this idea because our operations manager came in the other day and she was complaining that her instrument cluster was inoperative. She had a bunch of warning lights on, and she asked me if I could look at it. Well, we don't have a lot of tools at our office, but we happen to have a scan tool. Okay, so I go, well, let me look at it. I plugged the scan tool in, and it had a whole crap load of network communication code. So I go, well, okay, I got to get something to write on. And then I thought for a second, well, wait a minute, I got this app. I just took the scan tool and I just started taking pictures of the screens, and they went right up on my desktop, and I was able to, without having to write this stuff down. I mean, this is really, really powerful. So how many guys can see some power here? Okay, all right. So I hope that this is a really good, useful thing that you might be able to take back with you and possibly implement into your operation. But, again, imagine that you've got your service advisor up front, and you want to send him a quick note, and you can eliminate a lot of communication problems that exist. I mean, you've got a picture of the device, you can type in the part number, and you can see, it says, I don't know if you can see the text there. So TST class in New York 2014, it did that fine, okay? And then down here it says, this is a picture of the rear fuse panel, I need connector. It says C20C, SEE for character C. And also need the solder connection for that. I need a total. So, of course, you can use copy and paste here. So now I'm in I just go here and copy that and put it into my shop management system. How many times have you gotten into a car that you're checking out for something and there's other warning lights on in the dash? Perfect time to grab that phone and go click. Here's everything that's already going on with this car before we start. Again, looking at your scan tool, some pretty good, powerful stuff here. So, any questions on that?
Scott?
Yes, sir.
Does that all become archived when you're done with it?
Okay, so there's a couple more screens here. I'll explain to you what's going on. This is a free application, but there are limitations on the amount of data that it will store. But if you see a lot of value in it, you could probably implement it in your system and probably want to have it operating for many years. So you can go back and search it. So let's go back here. There's a couple more screens here. You don't have these printouts because this was kind of a last minute deal that I put this stuff in because I started seeing the power here. So just to kind of recap here, you've got the Slack application. It can run on iOS, it can run on Android. I don't think they have a Windows thing yet, but I think iOS and Android are the main players in this space. And you can create, you know, one-to-one communication. You can create multiple. You can put these guys in different groups, and so on. So it's pretty much universal. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. But just start playing with it a little bit and see. You can go right to slack.com, sign up your team. So you need to try to make sure that you're using, and this is kind of leading into the email part of this, that you use. How many of you guys have your own domain for your company? You have your own website, your own domain. Do you guys also, the guys that raise their hand, do you guys use your email address with your full domain in it? Some of you do. I've seen, you know, it's a mixed bag. Best practice, use your domain. Don't use at AOL.com if you've got a real domain. I mean, this is not professional. But when you go there, you're going to create a group for your team. You need to all have the same domain, okay? So that's how you're going to be able to get these people into your own little group. You were asking about the cost here, so it's kind of hard to see that, but the free light version, you get 10,000 searchable message archive. So there's 10,000 messages in there, 5 gigabytes of storage, 5 external integrations. So these are some advanced things. You can tie in some other applications, whether it be a social media thing. If somebody ever says something about your company, it pops right in there if you set that channel up. You have some other project management things. Yes, Pete?
Just a quick question, Scott. I know this is kind of new, but if you got a chance to see if any of these newer Android-based scan tools can send data directly up to this?
No, I haven't seen. Again, I've only been playing with this for about 20 days. But
You need to get on the stick with it.
no, I can tell, you know, you've been around a long time. I can tell you that even some of these companies are fairly progressive. They're always behind the times. And I mean, that's not, sometimes it's the fault of just the whole infrastructure of developing a scan tool and all that. So, but
A lot of those new Android operating systems, they're open systems, so you can add.
you can install the app. You could easily install the app and probably send data right to it. There's probably a way to integrate. Or talk to them and say, hey, they have what's called an API, application program interface, and they will probably give you some keys or something to develop it. So maybe if you get enough input to a tool manufacturer, maybe they'll consider it. So I see it as very, very powerful. And then it kind of goes up from there. You can add, you know, $8 per user per month. And I'm not selling this thing. I just discovered it. I have no stake in this at all. I'm just using it, and I see some value in it, and that's why that's why I'm sharing it with you guys. And then it goes on from there. But we have program management stuff that we do in our office at iATN. And it gets fairly complex, so keeping track of certain projects or updates or what have you. And when certain bugs come in and they get filed, they go into that system. Well, they also simultaneously, they pop right up in this thing. So every day I can go in there and I can see what's been filed and what's been corrected in one view, one interface. Saves me a ton of time. So, any other questions on this before we move on? Okay.
Scott,
Yes, sir.
you said the Slack.com is not Windows compatible?
It's Windows Phone compatible. With the Windows Phone operating system, that I don't think they have an application for that. But if you have an Android phone or an iOS iPhone, then you can get the application for it.
No, what I was referring to, when you're using the Slack.com on your Android, it's compatible to your desktop?
Yes. Yeah, that's what I just demoed. I was using an iPhone, but it'll work with an Android. If I've got the Android app, I'm logged into my account. I basically take the picture, talk into it, and boom, it goes right up into my my thing. So I see some good power there. Okay, any other questions on the Slack thing? And I'll be
Okay,
here all
good.
day, yes. Chrome is where it works best, okay? If you're in I use a lot of Mac stuff, so Mac actually has a native application for the Slack thing, so it kind of runs on its own. But what I was showing here is this Slack in Chrome, it makes it real easy for you to create a program application shortcut, okay? So you log into your account, create program application shortcut. This is the actual browser window right there. So you see it's a minimized, it doesn't have the nav bar, it doesn't have all that stuff, it's a nice clean interface. And you can set it up on your computer so it starts up right away in the morning and it's always running. So, good question. Okay, we started talking about email here. Again, I go to a lot of shops and, yes, please. Go to a lot of shops and sometimes I see, they're looking for an email or we're trying to get them validated on something. And you look at their inbox and it's a mess. And I'm going, how do you function? How can you function? So I can't stress enough to stay organized. Try to develop a routine where you're checking your email, once a day at least. I've got guys that, we'll email them and then they're going, hey, you never got back to me. And I go, well, I emailed you right away. I can tell you I did it. So he goes, well, I haven't checked my email for a couple days. We're now on page 4 of his email program because he wasn't paying attention to what's going on. He's got everything coming into the inbox. So we get a lot of email. There's a lot of junk. Try to get organized. You can use the power of your email application to create rules or filters. So when email comes from certain people that you're looking for, it gets put into a folder or it gets highlighted. So those are, again, best practices. Always try to communicate professionally. We got, again, I mentioned the new client base that's coming in. They like to do a lot of communication via email. So you need to make sure your email skills, communication skills are very good so that you can sell the job, basically. So when you do respond, be very clear and concise. We always try to use the rule of the least amount of words to describe what it needs because that eliminates confusion. Sometimes people read things into other words. So, and try to be punctual. Again, don't wait till a day later or 2 days later to respond to something. Be attentive and be on the ball. You never know who you're communicating with. You could be communicating with some guy that's got a big giant fleet, and he's going to want to deal with somebody that's punctual and is attentive. So those are best practices. The other thing I mentioned earlier, use your domain. I see this a lot. The guy's got his own domain for his company, his own website and all that, and he's using an AOL address for all of his business communication. That doesn't look very professional. When you put it on your business card, you're going to want to put your name and your domain on there. You don't want to put joe@aol.com. That just doesn't, it doesn't look professional. His question, basically to sum it up, his question was about privacy and what type of sensitive information can you put there. Of course, you're not going to want to put social security numbers and all that good stuff there. But you need to research that and find out what the security is. That has integration into your Google Docs, and it's very secure. We use Google Docs. We use the actual professional program. We pay like $50 per user per year. And we use second level authentication. We do all of the right things to make sure that our data is private. But when you are sharing your data like this, you need to make sure that you're using an application that can be trusted. You probably don't want to come across a link that has like a .ru or whatever it is for Russia, okay? And you can trust me, and so yeah, these are very good points, and I do appreciate your attentiveness to that because it is critical that you really pay attention to privacy. Yeah, so you don't want to get burned. You don't want your email address, your customer's email addresses getting out there. So you need to pay attention to the security end of things. Okay, we're back, email. So now we're going to go on to web browsers, okay? There's a bunch of different web browsers out there. And how many people here have more than one web browser on their computer? I hope everybody? Okay, all right. You've got choices. You've got Internet Explorer. If you're running Windows, you're pretty much forced to using Internet Explorer to start with. I don't recommend it. It's one of the most insecure, vulnerable pieces of software out there. That's and you sound like you're a computer guy, and you could probably agree with what I'm saying.
Explorer has gotten a lot better.
Okay, it's gotten a lot better, but there are some better ones. I mean, we can see some things running efficiency-wise. We do a lot of timing and loading of our applications when we're running stuff in the browser on iATN development end. Chrome by far is superior. I mean, it's very, very quick. So, but your mileage may vary on that. Okay. So you've got Firefox, Chrome, Safari. Couple rules here: keep them updated. Make sure that you're updating your computers. Make sure you've got the latest stuff, because there's so many exploits and things happening out there that you just don't want to get hacked. We've had technical support issues. One second. I've had guys call us and say, "Oh my God, I can't believe what's going on. I can't, understand what's going on." So we run an app to get on their computer so I can see what's going on. And it's like he's got a virus that's taken over his computer, and so every time he's doing a search, it's bringing up all kinds of other websites, and all kinds of ads are showing right up within the browser. It's kind of obnoxious. But the guy didn't quite understand what happened. Somebody probably opened something unsafe or went to a website or what have you. Always have at least 2 browsers installed, because yes, yeah, those are good points. So that's why I say leave Internet Explorer alone. I mean, don't go to Internet Explorer, because there are issues where you've got to use the older version. Sometimes when you've upgraded, there's no going back. You can't go back unless you do some magic things on your computer. So, and it's kind of frustrating that some of those companies, TechStream or what have you, they force you to use certain browsers. Now, TechStream, I know you can actually use other browsers on that. You're not forced to using Internet Explorer. But those are good points, John. But always have at least 2 installed, because sometimes you go to a website and something isn't working quite right. Don't call tech support. Fire it up in another browser and see if it works. A lot of times it does. So that, again, saves you some time. And always practice safe computing. Be aware of where you're going, what you're downloading, what you're installing. The next screen here is going to show you an example. John mentioned Java. Java pops up and it tells you, hey, you got to update. But be careful when you update, because a lot of times when you're going through the setup here, by default, they're trying to install some other software on your computer. And a lot of times you'll get in a big rush, and you'll go, "Oh my God, I got to update this. I'm going to click OK, OK, OK." And when you do that, what ends up happening is that there's crazy stuff that gets installed. Again, I visit a lot of computers, or a lot of shops. Sometimes I open up their browser. They've got 4 lines of like different shopping aids and search tools, and it's like, what the heck is going on here? We tried to do a Google search. You can't even get to Google, because it's forcing you to go to some weird search system. And I go, I don't know how you operate every day here like this. It's ridiculous. But just be aware of that, because a lot of them, they try to install all this junk, and it just ends up slowing your computer down, slowing your whole process down. And sometimes there may be security things that may end up happening. Things are being tunneled into the background. So always be aware of that. I saw a couple of heads nod back there like they've experienced this before. So a couple of other things, just some elementary things about browsers. So you've got browser shortcuts here, usually in your bookmarks toolbar. You guys, I'm assuming, are all using browser bookmark toolbars. I'm going to show you how to use those here. So we're going to go over to, close this. And so we're in Chrome here, and right here, when you fire up Chrome, you've got usually a toolbar here, and if you right-click and turn that off, sometimes you may not see it. So you have to go up here and go to Bookmarks, and then show bookmarks bar, okay? So as soon as you go to a site, so we go to members or iATN, and you want to create a quick link to it, you can just click and drag and drop it right there on your bar, okay? So now you have a quick link there. If you've got limited space here, you can also come in here and edit this, and you could just delete that part. And so now it's created a shortcut. So the other thing you can do is open up another tab and go to another site. I'm sure you guys all use Identifix, or some of you may use them. So you can create another one, okay? You go to another site, so you got AC Delco maybe. There's probably another, there's the TDS site or whatever, but we'll just pretend that, you know, AC Delco. AC Delco was another website we wanted access to, or one of your parts ordering stores or whatever. So you've got quick access to these things here, okay? But in the morning when you come in and you start your work day, normally you open up your web browser, right? So how many people have their web browser set up to open up all the stuff that they normally want quick access to? Show of hands. Got a few guys? Okay. So this tip I think will help, because when you open up your browser, you know, it's right now it's going to Google, but say, okay, I want to go to iATN, I want to open up another tab and go to Direct Hit, open up this other tab, I want to go to maybe the AC Delco site. Okay, so now how do I make my browser open up and open these up automatically? Most of the time you go to, we're going to go back to our presentation. Most of the browsers, when you go into the options area, there's going to be a place to configure the startup. So it says when Firefox starts up, show my home page, and here's the home page address. So you can put in the special addresses that you want it to go to and load automatically when you start your browser, so you don't have to click on each of those tabs. This is Internet Explorer right here. So you go to Internet Options under General, it says Home Page. To create home page tabs, type each address in its own bar. So you can type it in, or the easier way to do it is to do just like I did here. You load up the 3 or 4 or 5 that you want. Then you can go into the tools. Maybe I'm lost here. Where is my, there it is, settings, okay. So down here, I believe, maybe it's right. Okay, right here on Chrome it says on startup. Open a specific set of pages. You go to Set Pages, and it shows that one there. Or I can click this button right here where it says Use Current Pages. So it's going to use the current 3 tabs that I have loaded right there, and then I click OK. All right? I'm going to close my browser, because now I'm coming in the morning. My computer's set to start up, and again, you can set your computer as it boots up to actually open up your browser. And that didn't work. Why didn't it work? I don't think I saved it, so I apologize. Go back to I can't get to where I want to go. I'm going to go to this application here. So, got it members only. Settings, set pages. I've got all the pages set. I actually have a couple more added in here. And I'm going to click Use Current Pages, and then click OK. And then when I click Google Chrome, I'm going to start up Chrome, and it loads up the 2 pages that I saved, search and the iATN site. So you guys can probably see the power there on how that works. I don't know why it didn't work on my Windows side here, but I'm running 2 operating systems simultaneously. But you guys see some power there? That's helpful? Okay. Okay, we're just about there. So now we're going to talk about iATN search for a little bit here. So how many people here have used our new search interface? Got just a few people. How many guys have been on iATN for more than a year? Okay, got a bunch of guys. Okay. How many people were not aware that we have a new universal search interface on the site? Got a couple guys. John raised his hand, but I clued him in a couple weeks ago, and he wanted to know why he was buried under a rock and didn't see what's going on. But don't feel alone. A lot of guys haven't seen this. So this new platform, if you're familiar with iATN, when you go to search, you've got 3 different databases to search in, you know, technical or the tech help area, forums, and files. And when you go into that area, you're basically isolating yourself from the other areas, and you may have valuable data that you're looking for that may exist somewhere else. So this new search system is pretty quick, but it searches across everything simultaneously, and it uses the power of the vehicle attributes that are shared among other manufacturers, okay? So in this case, you know, we're searching for a car, but it's a 3.6 liter D motor. So we're looking at all the vehicles that were fitted with that D motor. We don't care what badge is on that car, because really what's on the outside doesn't matter to us. It's the systems that are on the vehicle. Here's another example. So you've got the RAV4 that we're searching for, and we typed in a couple of keywords, trans shift. Well, we're using the power of Identifix has a what's called a huge automotive synonym library of similar terms, also misspellings and so on. So when you're using those, you're going to see up at the top whether or not that's being deployed. Sometimes that can be your friend, sometimes that can be your foe, all right? So be aware of what's going on there, but you type in trans shift, it's also searching for, you know, transmission, transaxle, transmission assembly. All those other terms are also being looked at, along with misspellings. Sometimes guys misspell because our data is all user generated or user submitted. Sometimes these guys aren't, you know, typing in the proper spelling. We want to try to bring that stuff to you, okay? So these are just some of the examples. They're in your print, but we're just going to jump in and do a little searching right now so I can kind of explain. So we're in Chrome here. And again, I'm on the Mac side here. And so when you show up to search for the first time, and I'm probably going to need to log in here. Come on. So when you log into search, you're going to have a little dialog box. There's a little video there that kind of explains how it works. I recommend that you go and visit that video to kind of understand the power and then some of the search terms. And this is what you're going to see. You've got terms here. You can type in a VIN number up at the top or paste it in. You can type 01 F-150. So in this case here, if we're in the shop talking about a vehicle, and I tell you I got an 01 F-150, we didn't have to say Ford because we knew it was a Ford. And then the next thing you want to focus on is that engine and maybe the engine ID, because those are the essential, they're the key elements. You can type in no start, you can type the word by. If you're looking for somebody specifically that wrote something, you type the word by, space, and start typing their name. It's going to then show you a plausible list of the authors, and you're going to be able to easily drill down onto everything that that user has put into the system. You can type by me if you're logged into the site. Yeah, it looks like my internet connection. Come on, baby. There we go. Nice that technology is leaving me hanging with 150 people in here watching me, or more. All right. So when you come in here, so let's say that I wanted to search for a vehicle, and I want to kind of do an extreme here. I'm working on an 06 Saab Aero. You guys know what that is? You guys know what it is? Okay. All right. So it's a Saab Aero with a 2.5. Well, say that's the first one of those I get in, and I go, wow, this vehicle kind of looks a little strange. Because if I type in 06 Aero, see, I'm just starting to type a few characters, and I've got a choice here, and it's a 2.5. But look at all the vehicles that are popping up. It's all Subarus. Because what is that? It's just a rebadged Subaru. In some information systems, if you're going in and looking up that Saab, that's all you're going to see is just the Saab stuff. So I want to emphasize we're using the powertrain. We don't care about that badge that's on the front of that car. We're looking at the powertrain because those systems are all the same, okay? And we don't really mind the year. So our earlier searches were telling you to search by certain ranges of years. Well, sometimes those ranges are not correct, or you may have vehicles outside those ranges, so you're limiting them. If you're doing it this way, we're doing it automatically for you because we're listing all the vehicles that were fitted with that actual powertrain, that powertrain identifier. And as soon as you type in, then as soon as you build a vehicle, and for some reason you cannot see the left side of this screen here, you've got modifiers that you can search on, but they're also reporting the popularity of data. So right now for that vehicle, I see all the popular DTCs, the top 10. If I see one there that's familiar, oh yeah, I got a PO 2096. It's taking me right to the assets related to that very, very quickly. You can use the browser back button. In the previous search system, we told you to use the navigation tools that we have in place because there's a lot of complex things going on. You can use your browser back button here. So say you're looking for a crankshaft sensor on an older a 3800. So the car I'm working on is a 99 Camaro. It's an old car, okay? 3.8K motor, CKP, okay? And it looks like my internet connection's slow because it should be pulling up these images here, but you can see quickly, just in a few keystrokes, I'm able to drill down to all of the CKP mentions inside of the system. So I've got 236 total documents. If I only want to look at the files, I can click on that, and now I have all files. So just a few keystrokes, I was able to drill right down into that and pull that up. And then if you find something that's, you know, of interest or whatever, so let's just click on this one. Okay. So if I click through, I find a record, you know, I might have some data here. Again, the resolution's down on it. But the beauty here is that when you're searching through data, are you finding files like this? If there has been any dialogue, including this device or this file, in the last 16 years on iATN, you're going to have a link to it over here, okay, a reference link. If you click through that reference link, then you've got additional dialogue that's basically talking about this. So they could give you some extra perspective on what you're looking at for comparative. Yes, sir?
For the search engine on the iATN, does the using quotations work the same way as most search engines? For example, to keep order in what I'm saying, for example, you know, swap CKP instead of just CKP?
Yes, some of it does work that way. Sometimes it doesn't care about the order. It will go ahead and swap the order.
It will swap it even with the front, even if
Yes.
it's quotations.
It may do that, so and it may change. This thing's pretty much in flux, but we're creating this thing. I mean, it's pretty powerful. It's in what's called beta right now, but it's very usable. I use it all the time. Okay, his question was, and when some people are using search tools, and again, some people that have been around a long time know that search tools have had a lot of deficiencies, okay, and require you to do certain things in the search bar to narrow down on what you're looking for. This system, we'd like to think that doesn't really require a lot of that, but it does support the quotation. You want to know if you put something in quotes, does it constrain the search just to that particular word? Yes, it will, but it may actually reverse the words because sometimes guys might describe it backwards. We have gentlemen here from Mexico. Sometimes their translation, the way they describe things, they may have inputted it the inverse. So we don't want to filter that away from you. We want to be able to show that to you. So does that answer your question? So he's asking removing camshaft position sensor. So if we type that in, so I had to start with a quote, okay? And you see I'm having to type a lot here. And then you end in a quote, it's going to instantly bring it down, and I'm filtered down to files only, so I would need to turn that off, but it's not going to find anything. So we have a huge library of auto-suggest terms, and so as I start typing, do you see the terms start to come up? So there may not be anything for that, but there's, you know, remove engine, remove drive. So camshaft. So you've got all these other devices here. And when you have that auto suggest feature, the reason that we're not emphasizing typing in removing, and again, this is not an information system that would typically be delivering the proper procedure for doing that. That's your information system. This is more user-based, user experience stuff that you're looking for. But the power of what I just demonstrated on how you use those auto-suggest terms, one, it minimizes your typing, and two, it will then use the database of terms, the terminology here. So we're looking for camshaft actuator, but we're also looking for cam phaser, VVT, variable valve timing, camshaft phaser, VVT actuator, VCT. So you guys can understand the power there because there's a lot of ways to describe these things. Guys speak in different languages, manufacturers speak in different languages on how they describe things. So there's where the power is. The other search engines that we have in place, the legacy searches, or the legacy platforms, they don't use any of these advanced tools. And this is, when you guys are using this in your environment in the shop, good internet connection, it's very, very quick and snappy. And again, efficiency is a key indicator of productivity. So we're trying to create something here that's conducive to supporting your end goal here to bring relevant information. So that pulls up stuff right away. As soon as you type in a term, again, we've got codes related to that. You've got some misfire codes, some other, I don't know what that code is, but I mean, it's kind of interesting. You can start to see, so we typed in camshaft actuator in that DTC, and we see the popularity among the types of vehicles, or maybe the makes. So say, oh, I work on a lot of Mazdas. What's going on with all the Mazdas? Camshaft actuator related P0012. Maybe this is something I need to research a little bit. Maybe I haven't seen a lot of these yet in my shop, and maybe they're going to start to come in my shop. As this grows, you're going to actually gain some additional perspective because down here at the bottom, there isn't a lot here, but we've got location-based stuff. So that may be related. I mean, there may be things that are affected by climate or what have you. So there's some pretty cool things here that are going to start to develop as this tool begins to come to fruition. So any other questions on that? If you type in the best practice is to grab a VIN number from your system. So if I go grab I'm just going to go to this tech help. You notice we only show the first 10 of the VIN. Again, that's a privacy thing that we have in place. There's good reason for that. But you only need the first 10 of the VIN to define the vehicle down to its base element. So as soon as we paste in that VIN, do you see how fast that happens? Did you guys see that actually happen? Okay. So very, very quick. And so that guy was actually looking for, cannot be driven, he's got a C1223. You know, this guy, C12. So
I think he's still working on those days.
say that again? Say that again?
Are they still working on the interface now, or is it now?
It's, you can get to it today. So the way that you get to it, his question was, is iATN still working on this interface? Yes, we're working on it, but it's usable to everybody right now. You can get in there and use it. The way that you get to it is from the home page. Again, I have a different class that I teach here, but a lot of people come in here and start using this search. Stop using that. That's not very productive. Okay, that's using a lot of legacy platform stuff, and it's really not a good experience. This little green bar right here is going to take you right to that new search interface. Okay. If you happen to be in some of you may bookmark this page. You may have that page that may be very familiar to you. Click here on that green bar. That's going to take you into it. So we've got a number of ways for you to get into it, but probably want to bookmark this one, the search interface, so you can go in there. But anyways, that guy posted that question, and I'm sure that this is his actual post. Well, there's two other ones in there that already have some stuff about a C1223. So it's possible he didn't even need to post a question about it. Probably had some daylight there. The other power here is that in these tech helps, there's an average of about 10 responses that come into each one. In the old search interface, because of the amount of text, the volume of text, and the database technology that we're using, we had no way to index all that text. So that none of that is being searched. The new search is there, because a lot of times you may not find a solution here, but you'll find somebody down here that's been there, done that, and may provide just a nugget of data on how to maybe analyze something. Maybe, oh, hey, you can grab that signal from this connector, by the way, it's located behind this whatever. So there's a lot of really good information there, so I can't stress enough on using that. All right, so we got a couple more things to cover. How many people here are using what's called RSS feeds? Okay, got a couple guys. This thing also is powerful because it will allow you to create custom searches and generate an RSS feed based on that allows you to go to your RSS reader, okay? And I'm not going to try to explain how all this works, but imagine you go to one page in the morning, you've got all your feeds coming in, and all that data is being populated in real time. So the way you do it is that you have to sort your stuff by date here. There's a little option. You click on that, sorted by date, you get that RSS feed indicator, and that's what you can grab for your feed reader. And I use an app called Feedly, and this is what my interface looks like. So I've created like AC Delco, some terminology for AC Delco. I've got other things coming into it, you know, from GM TechLink or whatever. So all that stuff comes into one interface. And in the morning, I can go in there and I can look right away, how many new posts are there? If I click on one of those, it's going to show me a little snippet, and if I need to go look at it, a single click, and it takes me right to that resource. So very, very powerful. So any questions? I know we're running out of time for my slot. I appreciate you guys not beating me up too bad. So any other questions? No? Did I share anything that might be of use that you can take to work? Okay. All right.
California, that's a use.
Yeah.
Let's give Scott a big round of applause.
Thank you.